to walk together holistically, you know, and we're going to honor everybody, not just Indigenous people or non-Indigenous people. Yeah, very good. All right. Next slide, please. Yeah. Yeah. My grandmother, my maternal grandmother, to live in wellness means striving to be in balance of mind, body, spirit, and emotion with others, family, and community, and with land or nature. Yeah, stuff. So you could go that, yeah. Cultural sensitivity. Lived experiences of all people includes aspects similar and different to our own, and that our actions affect other people. So what we have to do is be sensitive to know that what we do is going to be different than what everybody else believes and does. Approaches acknowledge that difference is important and must be respected instead of trying to make everybody the same. A culturally sensitive person is one who is familiar with the values, beliefs, ideals, and worldviews of First Nation. This was actually referring to service providers in our communities, because Health Canada will send all these experts to our community. They stay in their office, they don't intervene, they don't come and visit the community, they don't shop in our community. I'm not saying that everybody does that, but most usually they just come to work, punch in, punch out, and leave. And then they come back, and yet they're supposed to be the ones who heal us, but they can't heal from their office. So we need them to be, okay, know the elder in the community, know the protocol, who's the chief, who's the health director, who's the child and care, family worker, who's the, you know what I mean? It's really important to know that about a community you're working in and not just be that 9 to 5 person and stuff, okay? Cultural competence, you know. So for me, being sensitive to another culture, being competent is going that extra step further, you know. Enable service providers to be respectful and effective in their interactions with First Nations people. Requires improving knowledge about First Nation issues and decolonizing the skills and actions that will lead to positive change. So you don't come in with your own agenda and expect that to be the one. You have to have some kind of interaction to be competent in the community you're serving and weave their knowledge and your knowledge together and not just say, I know it, I'm the one with the degree, I'm the PhD, I'm the doctor, you know, and that's the only way it's going to go. It won't work that way, you know. So to be culturally competent, you have to be humble enough to accept weaving something else into it with the people you work with. Yeah. I'll give this to you anyways, Lee. I'll give this slide to you. Yeah. Cultural safety enables health and service providers to be respectful and effective in their interactions with First Nation people. Interaction is the key word. Go to their gatherings, go to the baptisms, go to the weddings, go to the things, you know, and sometimes you think you have to be invited. Go to the powwows, you know. Go to the burials, go to the wakes, you know. It's totally different than how wakes are done in society. We bring the body to our home. And, you know, even my brother, he slept on the couch and watched TV. That was his life. So when the casket, I could have hosted it at my house, which was bigger, but I says, no, I'm going to take him to where he lived. Where the couch was, we put his casket there, where he would have been watching TV. So people say, well, how come you put him that way? I said, that's where he liked to be. I want to make sure he's there again, you know. And he always wore a headband, so I went and I got all his headbands, washed them, and I made all his pallbearers wear a headband in his behalf. And it was quite emotional for them and stuff, you know, to honor my brother that way as a residential school survivor. So those things need to happen, you know. That's being safe, in keeping their culture safe by not imposing, you know what I mean? And that's what cultural safety is we have a responsibility to keep their culture safe and not feel threatened by what we bring in to the community. Requires improving knowledge about First Nation and colonized skills, actions that will lead to positive change. Trust me, when you see, a matter of fact, David and I did a cultural immersion program for 30 teachers one year, and we brought them to our house in Tobic. They didn't have a bedroom each. We did it Maori style, where we had 30 mattresses all on the floor in my one room downstairs, you know, and what happened was a beautiful week of camaraderie and trust and joking, and it was like a big family. The ones who didn't like that idea, 4 of them went and stayed at a private place at the rehab with their own little rooms, and they were missing out. They always seemed to be out of the loop, and so they moved in with us on the last 2 days, you know what I mean? But the reason that was because we wanted to make sure that they kept our culture safe. And this is how we do it. I know you guys do it different, but I'm hoping you'll get used to it. You know what I mean? But the amazing thing that they were teachers, and I remember one time this one teacher, she went for a morning walk, and one of her students from the year before goes, "Mrs., what are you doing here?" And she goes, "I'm here to learn about your culture." And that little girl hugged her. Following year, she went to go thank that teacher for coming to the community. So there was something different happened. You know what I mean? And so then we invited principals with, well, if we have teachers, let's invite the administrators and come and learn about it that way. That way they can understand the difference of keeping the culture safe and not expecting them to fit the mold. You know? Yeah. Okay, next one, please. So there's my model, and Lee and I will work on taking that model apart of the medicine wheel, because there's obviously, you can start from the way in the center, which is the individual, and work out to the 4: spiritual, emotional, physical, mental, or you can start from the outside in as well to make yourself better. So mine works both ways, from within and from outside in, you know, so that way it's. So Lee and I will work on that to, you know, give it more structure and stuff. So a focus on indigenous healing is paramount today due to the large-scale suppression of indigenous cultural expressions. And our own people are suppressing what they want and what they know and what they feel because they're afraid. They're afraid to express their own culture because they don't know if it's going to be accepted. I have an elder who'll say, "I don't tell this story to everybody because nobody will believe me. They'll put me in a loony bin if I were to tell them I was talking to a deer today." You know what I mean? So for them, that's natural. And he says, "But I can tell you because I know you talk to the trees. I know you talk to water. I know you talk, you know." So for him, it was comfortable. So with respect to policy, so policies, we have to look at all the policies that are going to be developed when you're an institution, when you're an organization, you know. So somehow we have to make sure that there's indigenous presence so that we can combine a really good policy that's going to feel welcoming to everybody who's coming to your institution. Mainstream perception and subsequent policy implementation sometimes still reflect attitudes that were formulated during the decline of traditional healing practices during the colonization process. So we still have a lot of that residual things, you know. Not that when we had our conference, there was somebody who actually said, not only do we have to decolonize ourselves as indigenous people, some of us may not be willing to de-Christianize ourselves, you know, because you have to go back to what you believed in first. So when it was my turn to speak, I said, I've done that. I did go away, but I came back because what I'm doing now is I have an amazing relationship with the priests that I work with. I work with about 5 priests, and each of them we do something together for church, whether it's baptism, marriage, funeral, St. Kateri celebrations, holy days. I do. I'm busy at Easter doing ceremony on Holy Thursday to bless people's feet, you know, the parishioners' feet, to honor their earth walk, you know, their spiritual walk. And so there's a good weave, and those priests come into my sweat lodges too. So it's not as if I'm just doing that and they, you know, I'm doing what they want. It's not like that at all. You'll see sweetgrass in the churches now. You see drums, you'll see medicine wheels, you'll see, actually I have 4 crosses at St. Dunstan's that are white birch. And the white birch has to do with, that was our first confessional, is the white birch, and we still use it for people who can't talk to other humans to be able to release their burdens. And so what we did with the white birch tree is we would humbly go offer our tobacco and say, my burdens are too heavy. And we would just kind of take our knife out and then you'd open the bark, and you would say, could you take this burden or resentment from me so that it's getting too heavy for me to carry. Then you'd close it back up. You'd walk away from the tree knowing it's not in you anymore. So it's letting it go. So we have those crosses at St. Dunstan's, and right now they're hosting red shawls to acknowledge murdered and missing Aboriginal women. I have 4 medicines on those crosses so that the parishioners will wonder, well, that's sweetgrass, that's sage, that's cedar, and that's tobacco, and stuff. So there's a big presence of Aboriginal, spirituality within that church. And the priest is always, I even have one priest, when you go to communion, he'll say, Zazos Yud Huk, this is God's body. And stuff. He says it in my language when I go to communion, So there's that and stuff, okay? Which is a good partnership. Okay, so yeah. Internalized colonialism. Persons within the colonized group unconsciously adopt the worldview, cultural stereotypes, and cultural practices of the colonizer. This is my people. They accept it. Okay, I'm not as good as them. I'll never do this. So they're already believing what society has talked about. As a result, dominant cultural values, beliefs, social structures, and power structures are perpetuated and reinforced, including racism and sexism in our own people. So, for example, not that long ago, when there was an election in Tobique, we had elder men that would say, "I'll never vote for a woman, chief." That never would have happened in a traditional way, But because he's internalized, the colonialism all his life, he's come to believe that I'm just like them now, So he's not going to change, So we internalize all of that as well.